HR Church Bullies, narrated by Dr. Shalette Renee Griffin. The interview. The rain had been beating down all morning, and now I was halfway to the interview. Windshield wipers thudding in rhythm, while brake lights on I-85 glowed ahead like a row of red eyes. I kept running through my interview answers in my head, rehearsing every strength and weakness like it was gospel. Then I saw it, the building, aqua windows shimmering through the drizzle, looking almost like a beacon off the expressway. Too sleek, too expensive. Definitely not what I expected from a religious nonprofit. I turned into the massive parking lot, searching for visitor parking like Lynn mentioned in her email. First thing I spotted, Dr. Coleman's reserved parking space. The candy apple red Corvette sitting right there, smugged and shiny. Figures. I ended up all the way at the end of the lot, drenched just thinking about the walk. Really? They couldn't spring for a parking garage? Every job I had one. Nobody should have to start their day looking like a soaked stray dog. I grabbed my umbrella, took a deep breath, counted to 3, and stepped out like I owned the place. Because let's be real, the interview starts the second you open your car door. The reception area took my breath away. This place looked heavenly. Open space, glass ceiling, natural light pouring in, and a huge portrait of the Yardleys, the founders, hung over the lobby like royalty. Off to the left, a coffee bar, statues of the founders, a wall of pictures showing their humble beginnings as a food pantry in Kennett Square. When I reached the desk, there was a petite black woman chatting with the receptionist, who was also black, rocking these fire-red glasses that screamed confidence. She turned and smiled. "Are you Dana?" "Yes," I said, trying to sound calm but confident. "I'm here for my 2 o'clock interview with Dr. Coleman and Miss Colbreth." "Hi, I'm Lynn Castor. Nice to meet you, Dana," she said, shaking my hand. That threw me for a second. She sounded totally different on the phone. I pictured someone, well, white. But Lynn's smile was warm, genuine. She handed me a visitor's badge and said, "I'll take you back to see if they're ready." And just like that, we were off. No time to even thank the receptionist, who gave me a friendly little wave as I hurried past. Behind those closed doors, it was clear. This place had money. The HR lobby was full of bright art, big vases, and expensive-looking artifacts that felt more like a museum than an office. Paintings of quiet European towns by the water, places I'd love to visit someday, and posters of Yardley food trucks serving communities in need. Lynn came back a few minutes later. This time, no smile. Just, "They're ready for you," like she was sending me to court. Dr. Coleman's office was something else. Half library, half museum. The man himself sat behind a big mahogany desk, gray beard, sharp blue eyes, dressed like a man who had a golf outing right after this interview. Then I saw Shauna, the assistant HR director. Black woman, short blue dress, hair flawless. She looked like she was about to testify before Congress. That surprised me because Yardley rarely had black women in leadership. So seeing her there threw me for a loop, of course in a refreshing way. The first thing that caught my eye was a blue Egyptian tea set with gold hieroglyphics on the table. I told Dr. Coleman I collected tea sets myself. He seemed thrilled. Offered me a cup of Earl Grey tea right on the spot. Shauna just smiled politely, staying silent. I asked if he had been to Egypt. He nodded. Yes, 40 years ago, as a Yardley intern, he boasted. Then came the stories, the pyramids, the eternal one. Wait, the eternal one. I wasn't sure if that meant God or someone else. The rest of the office was what you expect: family photos, awards, books from wall to wall, authors I'd never even heard of. When he finally paused, he picked up my resume, looked halfway down the paper. So, he said, eyes narrowing, you're working on your master's. Yes, I said. I'll finish in December. He studied me, sat back in his chair, eyeing me up and down. Is that accelerated program? I blinked. No, just a regular one. He nodded, but I could tell he didn't like my answer. Based on his expression, he must have read my face. I asked that question because typically accelerated program usually means someone expects a management position after graduation. What the hell? I smiled politely. Inside, I was annoyed. Was it so wrong to want a management job one day? Damn. Then he shifted gears. Tell me about a time you managed an angry customer. I barely got 2 sentences out before he interrupted to tell me how he would have handled it, how my old bosses had it all wrong. He didn't know them. He didn't care. The man just loved to hear himself talk. Every question was a setup for another monologue about his expertise. I tried to redirect. I asked him about his vision for the department. Big mistake. He launched into another 20-minute brag session about his PhD, his knowledge of human behavior, and how he grew up poor on a Utah farm with 5 brothers. What the hell? I don't care about that. By 15 minutes, I was zoned out. I glanced at Shauna, hoping she would reel him in, but she just sat there, still and silent, scribbling notes that didn't have shit to do with what we were talking about. Finally, she spoke. Dr. Coleman, tell Dana about your time in Cairo as a mission specialist. Why in the hell she asked him that? All he did was go on. More names, more stories, more interns about how he and his buddies changed the world by saving leftovers for this town or so-called village that they were staying in. I started wondering if this was a job interview or an episode of This Is Your Life. At that point, I was ready to go home. And honestly, I'd rather argue with Jermaine over bills than sit here for another minute, listen to this asshole talk about himself. Shauna didn't ask a single question. Dr. Coleman wasn't taking notes. They weren't interested in me at all. They just wanted an audience. And I was their sucker for an hour. Although the interview lasted an hour, it felt like 3. By the end, I already knew. Even if I was offered a job, I couldn't work with Dr. Coleman. He had that polished Oxford preacher vibe going on. The kind of man who thinks he's the smartest person in the room and looks at you like you're broken and that he's the only one that can fix you. He didn't lead, he ruled. And those books on the shelves, pure decoration. Then a knock on the door. A young black girl peeked in, eyes red, like she'd been crying. She slid a note onto the desk and slipped out. Our eyes met. Just long before, she shook her head. She shook her head no. I knew that look. I gave plenty of those no type of looks when candidates come in to interview. It's the don't work here type look. Run while you can still look. Dr. Coleman stopped mid-sentence, read the note, and stood up. Well, I have to go, Dana. We'll have to cut this short. Great chatting with you. He shook my hand. Shauna followed suit, all business. I'll walk you out, she said. And we left the office. Lynn was nowhere in sight. Back at the front desk, the receptionist looked up. So, how did it go? I hesitated as I gave her my visitor badge. She raised an eyebrow. Be honest. I'm not even sure what just happened back there. That man, he's a piece of work. She burst out laughing. Yeah, he is, she said, peeking over her bright red glasses. I pointed to her nameplate. Hennessy? Like the drink. She held up her hand. No way. Yo, yeah, she said. My parents love some Hennessy. That's why I'm all messed up now. And they still hired you? Yeah, girl, Yardley don't discriminate. Do you even drink Hennessy? I asked. Hell no. My name should be Basil Hayden. Oh my gosh, we both cracked up, laughter bouncing off the quiet lobby walls. I hope I get hired, I said in between laughs. I would love to hang out with you. Girl, you got the job, she said, like was already done. What makes you say that? Hennessy looked around, leaned in. You're the only person they interviewed. They're not interviewing anybody else. Your name is the only one on the schedule. In fact, here's your start date. What? She nodded. Been here for 6 years. Them folks are different back there. Yeah, I said. I can definitely see that. You'll see, she said, grabbing her purse and a magazine. I'll fill you in when you start. I smiled, thanked her, and walked toward the revolving door. But my gut twisted, coupled with a nauseous feeling. Something about it felt all wrong. If I turned the job down, the fights with Jermaine about money would keep coming. If I took the job, I'd be walking straight into something I didn't understand. So what do you even pray for then? To get the job? Or not? H.R. Church Bullies, narrated by Dr. Schlett Renee Griffin, recorded by Williams Hole Publishing.